This is KGW News at 5.
More than 600 workers for the city of Portland are still on strike this evening. Members of Labor's Local 483 have been picketing at a couple of different locations since Thursday, including outside the wastewater treatment plant in North Portland. Welcome to KGW News at 5 tonight. I'm Joe Ranieri. Union reps say they're currently in a mediation session with the city, but have yet to come to a contract agreement. Now, Alma McCarty is joining us in the newsroom with the latest.
Yeah, that's right, Joe. Earlier this week, Mayor Wheeler put out a statement explaining the city received reports about, quote, illegal and sometimes violent activity by Portland city laborers striking early Thursday. Today, they doubled down, saying the city's had more reports of other similar incidents, but union members dispute those claims, calling them unsubstantiated and saying they've acted lawfully and faced attacks themselves.
Power to the workers!
Power to the boss!
A picket line means
do not cross!
Along North Columbia, members of Labor's Local 483 and supporters gathered to picket Saturday afternoon outside of the wastewater treatment plant. Richard Beadle made sure to come by.
I'm retired with the local. I used to manage the local, and I'm here to support my brothers and sisters in this fight. These folks are some of the hardest working people in the city. They're the people who maintain your streets. They're the people who maintain your parks. They clean your water to make sure that the river runs clean. The environmental systems is open 24/7.
James O'Loughlin, a field rep for the union, said Saturday marks day 3 of the strike.
We've been out here since Thursday at midnight. We are currently in a mediation session with the city. We're hopeful that they'll see the ridiculous expense they're putting into trying to throw legal injunctions at us, suppress our right to strike, wasting police officers' times out here. Doesn't amount to much compared to money that would honor the work our folks do, which is going to keep people in these positions long term.
Negotiations between union representatives and the city have gone on for about 10 months. The city explained it's offering a 12% wage increase by July, half of that retroactive to 2022, and a 5% cost of living increase each year. But the union wants the city to remove that annual 5% cap.
I mean, it's the pinch that everybody's feeling. But the city has been comfortable just allowing these kind of default pay cuts to occur. A little inflation there, some furlough days over here, concessions there, state mandated cuts to your pension. And that stuff amounts to these no longer being attractive jobs.
Mayor Wheeler issued a state of emergency ahead of the strike, allowing the city to hire or reallocate staff to ensure services continue. Meantime, these workers hope the city recognizes their worth.
They need to start addressing their employees' concerns because they're going to lose the best workforce in the whole city.
Now, tomorrow night, political leaders, community supporters, and other groups plan to hold a rally in support of the striking city workers. It begins at 5:30 p.m. outside the wastewater treatment plant. Joe?
Thanks, Alma. Hopefully both sides can reach an agreement very soon. Well, authorities have confirmed another death after a fatal crash on Highway 26 on the way to the coast. Oregon State Police say the crash happened on Friday when a Ford Ranger crossed onto the wrong side of the road and hit a Honda head-on. The driver of the Ranger died at the scene. The driver and a passenger in the Honda were taken by Lifeline to the hospital. Authorities today are saying the passenger in that Honda died in the hospital. Now to an update tonight on a standoff in Hood River that forced businesses and schools to evacuate. It started on Thursday when police got a call from a man who said his son had several guns and had shot one in their home and was potentially dangerous. When officers arrived and were talking with the man, they say shots were fired over their heads. That prompted the standoff and evacuations. The suspect surrendered after almost 10 hours. Police say he is 42-year-old Simon Hill. He was taken into the custody and then to a medical facility. Meanwhile, authorities are looking for whoever vandalized a memorial to Portland police officers. It's at Waterfront Park and honors officers who died in the line of duty. The vandal or vandals etched off each of their names. Police say it happened sometime Tuesday night. There are a total of 29 officers honored on the memorial dating back to 1867. Their names are also on the National Police Memorial in Washington, D.C.
It's the first day of Black History Month, and I'm getting pulled over again. Second time in a week.
A black Oregon lawmaker is expressing concern tonight after being pulled over twice in a week by Oregon State Police. Representative Travis Nelson posted a video on Twitter after the second traffic stop, which tonight has been viewed nearly 230,000 times. For context, we should note that Nelson told KGW News in one case he was speeding and in another had a hand on his phone. Though, as Bryant Clerkley reports, Nelson says he's still worried that race played a role.
Oh, after getting stopped last night, for the second time this week, I posted a little video saying something along the lines of, hey, what a way to start Black History Month.
In a video posted to Twitter, Representative Travis Nelson detailed being pulled over for the second time in a week. He says when you're black in Oregon, it's easy to stick out, which can sometimes result in situations like this. He was stopped once on Monday coming back to Portland from Salem, and then again on Wednesday by the Oregon State Police.
Both the officers were nice to me. We had pleasant interactions. You know, there was nothing bad that happened to me as a result of these stops. Yet I was stopped, and I've been stopped 40 plus times, probably 50 plus times at this point. And while I don't know that my race was the reason that they pulled me over, I do believe that unconscious bias is real.
I asked Representative Nelson if he knew of anything he was doing to warrant getting pulled over.
On Monday, the officer said he pulled me over because I strayed from my lane and because I was going 76 on I-5 going north. On Wednesday, the officer said he pulled me over because I had my phone in my hand.
Nelson went on to explain the situation on Monday.
On Monday, I recall having my cruise set to, I think, about 9 or 10 over the speed limit. I thought it was enough to where I wouldn't get pulled over, and I don't recall veering from my lane.
And then Wednesday, Nelson says he was getting on a virtual meeting as he was leaving Salem.
As I was getting on I-5, there was issues with the virtual meeting. I had my camera up on my holder on my dash, pulled it down to get back into the meeting, and while I was getting back on the meeting, the officer stopped me.
None of the stops resulted in a ticket. Nelson thinks the police saw him as suspicious and wanted to pull him over. In 2021, a state commission found that Oregon State Police did disproportionately issue citations to people of color compared to white drivers over the year they studied. Researchers at the time recommended additional training for state police troopers. He says he talked to a lot of white counterparts who have rarely been pulled over. He wanted to speak out for this reason.
I also wanted to speak out for all those people, all those black men who are getting, maybe it's not in Portland, but maybe it's when they leave Portland and they're either getting harassed or being deemed as suspicious or are getting pulled over more than their white counterparts would be.
Now, that was Bryant Clerkley reporting, and Oregon State Police responded to Bryant's story with a statement saying, in part, "We take allegation of racial bias seriously and are committed to eradicating racism from our profession, and we seek to understand how our enforcement efforts impact the communities we serve." They added that both incidents and videos from those stops have been reviewed in detail and called both troopers polite, professional, and courteous. OSP says it's also been in touch with Nelson to listen to his concerns. Today, the U.S. military says fighter jets shot down a suspected Chinese surveillance balloon off the coast of South Carolina. The giant balloon, which is the size of 3 school buses, has floated across the country for the last several days. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says the balloon was shot down at the direction of President Biden. U.S. military officials have been monitoring the balloon since Wednesday, when President Biden told them to shoot it down once they could do so without hurting people on the ground.
They successfully took it down, and I want to compliment our aviators who did it.
The balloon was spotted over Alaska, Canada, Montana, and the Carolinas. It was eventually shot down off the coast of South Carolina again. Now, China claims the balloon is a civilian airship used for weather research that was blown off course. Well, U.S. officials doubt that claim, and there are big political ramifications. Andrea Mitchell looks at what all this could mean.
That Chinese spy balloon blowing up Secretary of State Tony Blinken's high-stakes trip to China.
In light of China's unacceptable action, I am postponing my planned travel this weekend to China.
Blinken would have been the first Secretary of State to visit China in 6 years, now calling it off, even though he was expected to meet with China's President Xi Jinping to smooth relations at a time of historic tensions. The two superpowers at odds over China's support for Vladimir Putin in Ukraine, threats against Taiwan, North Korea's nuclear program, trade, and China's spying on the U.S.
We have to send a very clear signal to China that this is unacceptable.
Experts say it's no coincidence China launched its spy balloon the same week the U.S. announced new military bases in the Philippines, 100 miles from Taiwan, to deter an invasion.
What are the other consequences that China should have to take for these actions? What are the opportunity costs of not meeting with the Chinese and with the Chinese president?
I can only imagine what the reaction would be in China if they were on the other end. As I said, job one is getting it out of our airspace.
Key Republicans say canceling Blinken's trip is not a strong enough response.
Do you think the U.S. should have shot down the balloon or taken action against it in the last couple of days?
I do. We're talking about defending our sovereign airspace. And I don't think the Chinese Communist Party would hesitate to shoot down an American asset that was in their airspace.
Still ahead tonight, a new study from Washington State University is looking at the impacts we're making on wildlife, especially while we go out in nature for activities like hiking. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back. A lot of us love to get out and hike, and many more are doing just that in our natural areas these days. But how does that impact the wildlife? Well, it turns out the COVID-19 shutdown of national parks offered researchers a chance to study what happened when humans go away. Tim Gordon has more on the study out of Washington State University.
Even without hunting rifles, humans appear to have a strong influence that sends wildlife heading the other way. Even low-impact hikers seem to be perceived as a threat. That's what researchers from Washington State University found when they studied Montana's Glacier National Park during the year-long COVID-19 shutdown, when the animals freely came out in front of their cameras, compared to when the crowds were present.
So they either stopped coming by the cameras entirely, or they would come by less frequently, or in some cases they would shift when they came by to nighttime to avoid contact with people.
Daniel Thornton is a WSU wildlife ecologist and senior author of the study published in the journal Scientific Reports. He says the COVID-19 shutdown of Glacier gave them a unique opportunity to look at the effects of generally friendly crowds of humans on 22 species of mid to large-sized mammals in the park, gaining knowledge that we can learn from wherever we hike.
Globally, really, we're seeing a lot of increase in outdoor recreation. So this is a problem that a lot of places are going to face, including the Pacific Northwest, which also has seen kind of, year after year increases in recreators on the landscape.
To be clear, Professor Thornton says the takeaway is not to stop getting out there in your favorite wildlife area.
I think an awareness, that this is an issue, and that as more people start recreating, that issue might evolve and become more pressing in the future.
Tim Gordon, KGW News.